Hello, thank you for listening to the Moist Boys Reviews. This is Josh. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about the Anchor.fm app. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. What's up, everybody? This is Josh. You're listening to the Moist Boys Reviews. I'm doing something a little bit different today, so if you hear any differences, that is what you are hearing. So, might be good, might be not. Who knows? Playing a little bit of catch up here with some movies in theaters. Things are going crazy around the Moist Boys studios. So, that should be exciting. But today, while I've got you all here, I'm going to be talking about the film The Turning. It's the film everyone's been waiting for. Written by Carrie Hayes and Chad Hayes. Directed by Floria Sigismondi. This film is 1 hour and 34 minutes. It is rated PG-13. The film stars Mackenzie Davis, Finn Wolfhard, and Brooklyn Prince. A special appearance by Jolie Richardson. Based on the Henry James novella The Turn of the Screw. This is one in a long line of adaptations of the story, and hopefully not the best. So Mackenzie Davis plays Kate Mandel, a teacher who takes a private teaching job so she can become the teacher for Brooklyn Prince's Flora Fairchild. Finn Wolfhard plays her brother, Miles Fairchild. Barbara Martin plays Mrs. Gross. As I said before, Jolie Richardson makes a brief cameo appearance as Mackenzie Davis's mother. There are a couple other characters, but it's a pretty small cast overall. Essentially, this film is 1 hour and 34 minutes. I'm assuming that includes the credits as well. So essentially this film is 90 minutes where nothing happens, 3.5 minutes of credits, and 45 seconds of complete insanity. You've probably heard that this film does some bad things at the end of it, and that would be entirely accurate. Most of this film takes place on a large estate. The Fairchild children are orphans because their parents died in what we are told was a car accident just outside the gates. In this film, very little happens. This kind of gets revealed, the purpose of which at the end of the movie, even though that doesn't really excuse the fact that there's a lot of wheel spinning and time wasting here. It is ostensibly a horror movie, even though unless you find sewing machines and shadows particularly scary, that is not the case. In fact, it is almost exclusively jump scares as the scary part of this movie. Most of them are incredibly egregious as far as what they end up being, which is mostly just very loud soundtrack noises. So if you are easily startled, I assume this movie will negatively affect you, which I am. I am not a fan of jump scares, and that is all this film has to offer. Even worse when they are entirely unearned, as these ones are. As far as the performances go, Finn Wolfhard, he shows up and gives his lines. He doesn't really have any character to work with. Mackenzie Davis, I think, is perhaps miscast in this film. She was never really convincing, even though I am a fan of her work that I've seen. Otherwise, this was not the film for her. Barbara Martin as Mrs. Gross and Brooklyn Prince as Flora Fairchild are actually really good in their roles and doing what they need to do. There is one scene that's kind of indicative of this film. It is in the trailer where Brooklyn Prince is hiding in a horse stall, and Mackenzie Davis's character is looking for her, and she jumps out from a hiding spot. And Mackenzie Davis asks Flora where she was hiding, and Flora replies that she'll never tell. If you think that this will go anywhere, it does not. If you think anything in this film goes somewhere, it does not, because in the last few moments, it kind of goes off the rails and it's not great. The directing is fairly bland. There is not a lot of atmosphere or interesting things going on camera-wise, so it was not great to look at. Most of the scenes are just gray and uninteresting, which can build tension or atmosphere, but in this case, it's just pretty bland to look at because, as I said before, nothing really happens in this story. There is a subplot with Mackenzie Davis's character and wondering that since her mother is in a mental institution, if she is going the same way, but that doesn't really go anywhere and only gets brought up in the last few moments of the film. Before I go in any further, if you do not want this film spoiled for you, then I would say to stop listening after I give the Clooney score. But I would say please don't watch this movie. It's not worth it. And continue listening if you've already seen it, then you know what I mean. For the Clooneys, before the last few moments of the film, I would have given this 4 or 5 Clooneys, just based on the fact that it was moderately competent and not terrible. But with the end of the film, that really brings it down to 2 Clooneys out of 10. This is not a good movie. It's not worth anybody's time. From this point on, I'm going to be getting into spoilers, so hold on to your butts. So in the last few moments of the film, really probably the last 5 minutes of the movie, everything starts to go off the rails. Mackenzie Davis finds what she thinks is the dead body of the previous teacher that the children had dumped in a lake. After that, she runs back into the house, starts hearing weird noises, and goes to investigate and sees a ghost rape, which is exactly as classy as it sounds. You start getting smoky ghost characters flying around the house, particularly the former stable hand, I guess, called Quint, who is kind of a brute of a character. In his smoky ghost form, he starts running around the house, terrorizing everybody, and it was never not hilarious. I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but I found it incredibly hilarious because of the performances and the way it looked. So the ghost Quint ends up murdering Mrs. Gross, the children's caretaker, pushes her over a banister. Mackenzie Davis takes the two children, and they have to escape the house. And as they drive into the distance, the camera pulls back, and you get pulled out through the eyeball of Mackenzie Davis, and you find out that that was all a dream. And the actual end of the movie is just her running around screaming at the children before going into another dream where she wakes up inside what looks like a YMCA pool, where earlier we saw her mother doing paintings because she was an artist. Mackenzie Davis's character approaches her mother, taps her on the shoulder, and spins her around, and we see just her mother doesn't have the front of her face, it's just hair all the way around. Then Mackenzie Davis falls down and screams, and then the credits start rolling. Over the credits, you see Mackenzie Davis's character walking through the house, kind of feeling along the walls as she walks past paintings and various other things. And then we see Dana Thompson plays the previous teacher, and we see her floating in the water doing creepy ghost dance stuff. And then the film ends. So what does it mean, and why did anybody watch it? No idea. Thank you for listening to the Moist Boys Reviews. Please check out the Moist Boys Podcast, the Action Boys Podcast, and the After Show Podcast. We are right now reviewing the episodes of Picard as they are released on CBS All Access. You can hear that, as well as our past episodes about His Dark Materials and The Mandalorian. Thank you for listening to the Moist Boys Reviews, and we'll be back again next time.